So not only did the University of Idaho demolish the house at 1122 King Road and, in my opinion, destroyed evidence, but now it's reported that they took the debris from the house and buried it underground in a secret location so nobody can ever find it. That's not strange. Hey everyone, it's Lucky with Unfiltered Lucky, and I hope that you all had a very happy and safe new year. I have a lot planned for this channel for 2024, so I hope that you all will come along with me. But today, I want to talk about the King Road house, the physical structure that was at 1122 King Road. Now, the Consalvis family and the Kernodle family released a statement right before the house was demolished, basically pleading with the prosecution and the University of Idaho to leave the house standing. Now, there was a question in this statement, and it's kind of stuck with me. And the question was, why was the house a target? So why and how could the house be a target? Now, in this same statement, and actually this same question, it states that law enforcement and investigators had a theory just hours after they responded to this call. And the theory was that the house was the target. So the University of Idaho had put out a vandal alert at 3:07 on November 13th, the day these crimes occurred, basically issuing a shelter in place. Now, only 39 minutes later, the University of Idaho lifted that shelter in place through another vandal alert. Now, if we're reading this statement correctly, the reason they lifted the shelter in place was because investigators believed that this house at 1122 King Road was the target and that nobody else was in danger. Now, it's not uncommon for an object to be the focus of a crime. I mean, let's say someone has an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend, and that ex is bitter towards them, so they decide to go to their job and destroy their car in the parking lot. So, yeah, the car would be the target because the individual is going to this destination to commit a crime against this car. But as far as the house, how could the house be the target? Now, houses can become targets, and usually it's in my opinion, in a burglary case. So usually it would be the contents that were within the house that would actually be the target. So was there something inside of this house that someone was looking for? What would lead investigators to believe just hours after they got to the crime scene that the house was definitely the target? Now, they would walk that back later and explain that they really weren't sure if it was the victims who were the target or the house. But in my opinion, for the house to be the target, there would need to be something inside this house that somebody wanted. I mean, it sounds silly. It would sound silly to think that somebody would have a personal vendetta against this house, right? So it would be something inside this house. Now, when law enforcement got there, was the house in disarray? Did it look like people had rifled through the house looking for stuff? Did it look like they were looking for something, and that's why police and that's why investigators believed that the target was the house? Is it possible that there was a message, maybe something written on the wall, or something within the interior structure of this house that would lead investigators to believe that the house was the target? Now, we've talked about this spare bedroom on the first level. Now, this spare bedroom was leased to a girl named Ashlyn, but reportedly, Ashlyn did not live at the house. She rented the room, but she didn't live there, apparently. Which, I mean, that doesn't mean anything. She could have moved in with her boyfriend. She could have moved into the sorority house. So there's reasons why people would lease a space and, not actually live there. But it just seems rather odd that someone would continue to pay rent for a space that they're not even using. Now, is it possible that maybe she thought that she may come back and use that space, or, maybe her living situation where she wasn't real solid, so she held on to the room at the King Road house? That's possible. Now, we know that they used this room. They had access to this spare bedroom. In a lot of the law enforcement, body cam footage, when they're going to parties at this King Road house, there's people in this spare bedroom. There's lights on, so they are using this bedroom. Now, that seems odd to me because, these were all people renting rooms under one roof. So these were all different people renting rooms under one roof. Now, Kaylee and Maddie, they were best friends. They were like sisters, but, and I believe that they were all friends, but the reality of it was that they were all leasing separate rooms under this roof in this house. So I would imagine that they had to put down a damage deposit, which would seem very common, in a house full of college kids. So it just surprises me, or I guess it just seems odd to me that the individual who rented this room on the bottom floor, the spare bedroom, would just allow whatever to happen in that room. Being that room was her responsibility. So I always thought that it was odd that people were partying in that room and that they had access to that room. Now it's been reported that Ashlyn, the individual who leased that spare bedroom, was at a party at the King Road house on Friday night, the night before the crimes. So I had heard rumors that there was a big falling out between Ashlyn and some of the other roommates. Now, that seemed, to make sense at the time, but it would seem odd that she would go to a party at their house, on that Friday night, the night before the crimes, if she had any, hard feelings towards those roommates. Now, there's also rumors that Ashlyn was really good friends with Emma Bailey. So, is it possible that this room was being used in some capacity? Is it possible that, Ashlyn wasn't using the room, so may as well let someone else, use the room in some way? I mentioned this spare bedroom because I've always believed, and I still believe, that this spare bedroom somehow played a part in these crimes. Is that the reason that they believed that the house was the target? Because is it possible that it was something in this room, in this spare bedroom, that maybe people wanted to get to, or, maybe something that was missing from that room? But I've just always felt like that spare bedroom in this house played some sort of part in these crimes. So I just don't understand how the house could be the target. Because if somebody was, coming into this house because, there was, a bunch of sorority girls that lived in this house, and that was the purpose for them going into this house, then the girls would have been the target, not the house. So I've just never really understood why investigators would believe that the house was the target. Nothing, they reported that nothing, seemed to be stolen. It didn't appear to be a burglary. So why would the house be a target? Now, I want to talk about something strange with this house, because as we know, they just knocked this house down. They demolished the 1122 King Road house, and in my opinion, destroyed evidence. Now, not only did they demolish the house, but they also took the debris to somewhere private and buried the debris underground. So that no one can ever find it again. That's odd. That's odd. I mean, you don't just demolish the house, but now you're going to take all of the debris and bury it in the ground in a secret location. Because, their explanation was because they were worried that people might want pieces of this house for souvenirs. I think they're right. I think people would have wanted pieces of this house for souvenirs. But, why not just take the debris to a landfill? If somebody's going to go through the trouble of following this dump truck all the way to the landfill to see exactly where they dumped this debris, they probably would have just gotten a souvenir from the house in the whole past year that house was standing. The King Road house has been standing there for over a year. Empty. There's one security guard sitting outside in a basically, a temporary chain link fence. But if somebody's going to go through all the trouble of finding out where this debris is at so they can get a souvenir, I think they probably would have just taken it from the house when the house was standing. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding this house. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on in this investigation. These investigators and this prosecutor would make you think that everything's just going as normal, when really the people on the outside looking in can tell that it's not. There's nothing normal about this investigation. So it just seems so strange, that these crimes occur, and then the University of Idaho is really pressing to demolish this house the entire year. In this entire past year, the University of Idaho has been pressing to demolish this house. And then they finally, go against people's wishes and demolish the house. Now, they don't just demolish the house, then they have to take all of the debris from the house to a secret location and bury it in the ground. That looks strange. That looks suspect. It just seems like law enforcement and the prosecutor continue to, do these things that just, they look suspect. They look shady. So I don't know. I think this house played a bigger part than the prosecution and the University of Idaho would like to let on. Now, stay tuned for my next video, and please like and please subscribe to my channel if you like my content. I really do appreciate it. We'll see you next time.